Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Macro View Show. Today we are here in Dubai. I'm here to speak on the Energy Markets Forum of the Gulf Intelligence podcast, where I'm a regular panelist. But I will talk about those things once the conference happens on 10th and 11th. But today we're going to focus on the key question that will we see a redux or a repeat of the events in 1973, given the recent eruption of violence and escalation between both sides in the Palestinian region. Also, we're going to have a look at where do we stand in terms of the global economy. So the first chart right here speaks about the bigger picture question, which is the global economy per se. And this was a very interesting chart in Bloomberg, which talked about soft landings and hard landing rhetoric. And it always is the case that whenever there is going to be a hard landing or whenever there is going to be a recession, the calls for soft landing are always quite a lot. And to the surprise of many, what happens is actually the opposite. The article quoted actually then President Janet Yellen in 2007, October, when she said that the outcome will most likely be a soft landing just after the Great Recession happened. So it is also called as the Minsky moment in economics. And I think why does this happen? Because we do not keep our guards up. And now that the manufacturing is bottoming out, inflation seems to be taming around the world, there have been this thinking, this argument that we might be heading for the soft landing. However, as we have shown in multiple shows of the Monday Macro View and the Econ Show, the global economic data points otherwise. One of the reasons of this mismatch in prognostication or prediction is the models that are used usually. So financial models or economic models do not take into account the non-linearities of the complex system of the economy, and that is why we most of all are taken aback or by surprise by such events. One of the factors here is that this was a very interesting example about unemployment. All of the Fed's unemployment models call for a slight edge up in the current unemployment rate, so about 3.8, 3.9%. But in the end, what happens if, as you can see on the right-hand side, the savings are depleting. All of the savings that were accumulated during COVID-19 are now depleting. All of the sectors, middle income, rich people, the poor class, they are seeing a downturn in their saving levels. And what will happen if that starts to affect the consumer markets? So far, the consumer indices are, giving mixed signals. But if this factors takes precedence over others or becomes dominant, then these models, they aren't going to tell us this, the exact result. Moving forward, another thing which is very important to understand in terms of whether there will be a soft landing or whether we are heading for a recession is the fact that monetary policy always work with lag. The factors that I mentioned, like manufacturing, GDP growth, and interest rate taming, these are factors where the monetary policy effects appear in the shorter term. So even if they are getting better, it doesn't mean that those factors that actually contribute towards a recession, such as the job markets, such as the financial markets, or the restrictions by banks, they take about 18 to 24 months. So whatever is happening right now, the effect of the Federal Reserve's monetary policy tightening will actually appear by the end of this year or by the mid of next year. So we will have to wait and watch what will actually happen. In that regard, this chart shows that the lending standards by banks, which is a very important indicator, it has been tightening by huge amounts, exponential increase. You can see here on the right hand side, 2020, after 2020, especially after the banking crisis, liquidity crisis, there's a surge here, and this definitely plays a negative impact when it comes to economic growth. Shifting the show towards what's happening in the oil markets right now, there was a very interesting article in Bloomberg once again talked about are there any parallels between today and 1973? So it turns out there are reasons to believe that oil prices will touch or go beyond $100, and then there are reasons to believe that this might not happen. As of today, as I record this show, oil prices have registered an increase of 5 to 6%, hovering near 90s. But I think as things escalate and followed up by a very heated rhetoric, there is a huge chance that oil prices might touch $100. We should also remember that there were many calls. Almost everyone was thinking that oil prices will touch $100 even before this geopolitical flashpoint, but it didn't happen. And one of the reasons is that this leads us to the first reason, that the demand in the global economy is not as such as it was in 1973. I will show it to you in the next chart, because we all know that global economic indicators are poised in a way that it doesn't show a strong demand case. That was actually the reason that OPEC Plus in the first place extended its production cuts. So it was not on the back of a surging demand, but on the reason was centered upon the forecast, the fears that demand would not be up to the mark. Hence, they had to cut productions. That is the first reason. The second reason is that the world is also very different at the moment. Everyone has their own interests, and I don't think anybody would want to oil prices to even cross to a certain level where further demand destruction hits in. Look at the next chart. Another reason that oil prices might not increase to an extent where many people are thinking is the spare capacity of OPEC. So back in 1970s, the spare capacity of OPEC plus countries was almost exhausted. But now, given that there are production cuts in place, the spare capacity is at its highest point. So if we see that oil prices are going beyond a level where demand destruction would come in, I think the spare capacity would hit in to balance the equation. But there are also reasons. And the third reason is, as you can see, the inflation levels, the global economic indicators, PMI levels in Europe, PMI levels in China, Asian export markets, all of them are showing downward direction. So, there isn't any demand. So Saudi Europe and all the other countries, they might accept a 10 to 20% maximum further increase in oil prices. But after that, pressure will start to build from US, especially pressure will start to build from Asian markets. They will have to reduce their OSPs and so on and so forth. So these are the reasons that oil prices might not touch, go beyond 100 levels and remain there. It might touch that triple-digit domain. But US strategic petroleum reserves are at their lowest levels in the past 40 years. That is something that is of quite a concern. Although the US commercial inventories of the SPRs do not amount to the overall reserves of the world, but still it carries a huge sentimental value in terms of shaping up the emotions of the market and causing a feedback loop. Additionally, if you look at Iranian markets, Iranian exports hit its 5 years high recently. But now, given the conditions, we might see a further tightening of sanctions on Iran as well, and which would result into all the barrels that were injected in the markets recently, they would go back. That can create a sort of a fake supply crunch. There wouldn't be actual supply crunch given that there isn't enough demand, but that can also cause the oil prices to surge in the near future. So that was all from this side today. I couldn't make the market sentiment tracker because I was traveling. Next week, I'll update you about what happened at the Energy Markets Forum. Thank you.